in the last class,
Morning, ma'am.
last class we started with poem. And what was the title of the poem?
My shadow.
And who is a poet?
Robert Stevenson.
Okay. Robert Louis Stevenson. So, what are the details that you know about Robert Louis Stevenson? Can anyone share it? Yes, Sarah. Yes, you can speak. It's unmuted. Srihari.
Ma'am, he started writing poems in a very young age.
Yes. Okay. Then, to which country did he belong? He was a native of which country? Who remembers that? Who remembers? Manas?
In England?
Not specifically England. Starting with S. Felix.
Scotland.
Exactly, Scotland. He was a Scottish novelist and poet who belonged to the 19th century, and he became a writer at a very young age, as Sri Hari said, and he died also at a very young age, at the age of 44, because he was always
had a disease.
he had chronic illnesses. He had chronic illness from his childhood. Okay, and there are many famous children classics that he wrote in his lifetime, like Treasure Island, Kidnapped, then Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll. So all these are his famous stories. Treasure Island is a very, very famous novel. Treasure Island. Okay. Now, this poem says about or describes a young boy's, other poets' curiosity about his own shadow. Okay, Siddhi, chronic means very, very serious. Chronic illness means very serious, very serious. Okay. So, I showed you a video in the last class. I began the class by showing you the video of an art of performing stories through shadows. Do anyone remember what it is called? I gave two names, if I'm not wrong. I gave two names. Did I? Did I give the names? I told you it's a form, it's an art. It's an art of showing stories or performing stories through shadows. And did I tell you what is it called? No.
No.
Children, you are unmuted.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay, fine.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so
For that
I'll...
video.
So the art of performing stories through shadows are called shadowgraphy. Shadowgraphy, or there is another name, ombramani. Sounds weird, right? But this is the name. Okay, shadowgraphy or ombramani. So what is this? It's an art of performing stories through shadows. Okay, and it is called shadowgraphy or ombramani. How is that word pronounced? Children, how is that word pronounced?
Ombramani.
Okay, shadowgraphy or ombramani. Okay. And this is a poem about what her child has to say about his shadow. And you also told how shadows are formed. When light falls on an opaque object, a shadow is cast on the opposite side. Right? So, Avantika, read the first stanza. I explained two stanza, I remember. First two stanza.
I have a little shadow that goes in
Louder,
and
Avantika. Can't hear you.
I have a little shadow that go in and out with me. And what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed.
To my bed. Okay. So, what does the boy says in the first stanza? I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me. So he says that the shadow is always with me. Okay, so what the boy says is true, but he is not aware about the scientific reason. Like how is shadow formed? What is the reason behind it? He is totally ignorant about it. But he knows that he has got a little shadow that goes in and sometimes comes out with him. And what can be the use of him is more than I can see. So he says that, see, I feel my shadow is very useful in many things, many cases, but it is more than what I can see. So there are a lot of hidden benefits about my shadow because the boy feels that it is very strange, it is very surprising, and he's fascinated with this fact. He is very, very like me, from the heels up to the head. Just a moment.
Ma'am, now you can show the video, right?
Not video. Yes. I hope you know this is a part called heel, right? So the poet says, he is very, very like me from the heels up to the head. From the heels up to the head. What does that mean? What do you mean by from the heels up to the head? Who
Ma'am,
can tell me?
Felix.
Ma'am,
Yes, Felix.
From the bottom to the top.
Yes, Maria, do you want to say something else?
No.
No. So from the heels up to the head means from the bottom to the top. Exactly like me. Means a photocopy, a miniature, an exact replica of my body. That is what the boy says. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. And how does that happen, children? I'll show you. See, look at this picture. Is it clear? Yes? See, the boy is going to lie on the bed and he can see his shadow jumping onto the bed before he sleeps in. Okay, because that is how the shadow is. Sometimes it will be in front of you. Most of the time it will be in front of you, right? So when you are about to do an action, you can see your shadow is doing the same action. And as it is in front of you, this boy thinks that the shadow jumps before me when I jump into my bed. Okay. Did you understand that, children?
yes, ma'am.
Yes. So
Yes,
this is why
ma'am.
he thinks
Yes, ma'am.
shadow jumps into the bed before he jumps. Before he lies down, his shadow jumps into his bed before him. Okay. Now, Isha, read the second passage, second stanza. Unmute. Rudra.
Maria, can you?
Yes, ma'am.
Second stanza.
The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. For he sometimes shoots up taller like an Indian rubber ball. And he sometimes gets so little there none of him at all.
None of him at all. So, in the second stanza, he shows his confusion as well as his something very funny. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. He says that the most funny part about my shadow is the manner he likes to grow. And it is not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. We discuss how a normal kid grows up. Right, it is a very slow and a very gradual process. But here, it's not the same with the shadow. For he sometimes shoots up taller like an India rubber ball. And I showed you what is an India rubber ball. It's just a soft bouncing ball. Right, the moment you put it, it will just shoot up. It will just bounce back at a great height. So here the boy says he sometimes shoots up taller like an India rubber ball. Just like an India rubber ball bounces up, my shadow becomes big. And he sometimes gets so little, there's none of him at all. And sometimes what I observe about my shadow, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and it vanishes. Okay, so here he shows his confusion as well as he enjoys that. He thinks that it is a big joke and he doesn't know the reason what happens exactly. Okay, so I hope the first two stanzas are clear to you. Children, are the two stanzas clear to you?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This
Yes,
poem
ma'am.
shows the innocence of a child and how he considers the things he doesn't know. The children doesn't have the wisdom to go and ask, especially when they are too small. They have got their own imagination. When they grow bigger, of course, you can imagine how was your childhood. You used to have lot of imaginations, and as you grew up, you started asking your parents, teachers, and others to know what it is actually. But the smaller ones will have weird imaginations and they will just assume, okay, this is this is that. That is how kids are. So, through this poem, through this beautiful poem of R.L. Stevenson, he portrays the innocence of a child and their beautiful or adorable imagination. Okay, now let's move on to the third stanza.
And can I read? Felix.
He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play, ought, ought to play, and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he is a coward, you can see. I would think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. So he hasn't got a notion. So what do you mean by notion? Notion means an idea or I believe. Okay, an idea. He hasn't. Who is this he here? My shadow. Okay, he hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play. Ought to play. Ought means like should. Another word for should. It is a poetic word. Okay, so here the boy says he hasn't got a notion. My shadow doesn't have any idea of how children ought to play, how children are supposed to play, and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. And he says that my shadow always tries to make a fool of me. He tries to play tricks on me. He stays so close beside me. I can see my shadow is always sticking to close with me, close to me. He's always with me. He's a coward, you can see. Now, what do you mean by a coward? Who is a coward, children? Coward?
Felix.
Yes, Felix, tell me, who is a coward?
Coward means without knowing, fooling, doing any tricks on others. Without
No,
knowing.
that's not the actual answer. What is a coward? Yes, Janvi.
A fool.
Sorry?
A fool.
Not a fool. Siddhi, do you know the answer? What is a coward? Yes, Isha.
Yes.
Yes,
A shy
scared.
person.
Huh?
A
Yes,
shy person.
shy. Not exactly shy. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a sentence.
Ma'am,
My brother says,
ma'am,
listen,
can I
listen.
say? Ma'am, can I say?
Brother says,
Don't blame.
my brother says he's
Don't blame.
go to the room in the dark. And I call him a coward. Now tell me what is the meaning of coward?
Ma'am, scared. Ma'am,
Correct. Yes?
no, not brave.
Exactly. That is the
Not
right one.
brave.
Not brave. A coward means not brave. So, the boy calls his shadow a coward. Why? What is the reason? Because he says he stays so close beside me always. He always sticks to me. He sticks with me. Okay. I would think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. And who is a Nursey? A Nursey means Nursey is a nanny. Right? Who is a nanny? Have you heard that word? What do you mean by nanny? Yes, Ellen.
A maid.
Huh? Can't hear you, Ellen.
A maid.
Still, it is not clear. Yes, Nainika. Izan.
Ma'am, a person appointed to look after a child.
Yes, exactly. Especially when both the parents are working, when both father and mother are working, parents appoint a lady, somebody, to take care of the child in their absence. Such a person is called a nanny. So this boy says he considers it's a big shame to stick to nanny always because he thinks that he is grown up. He thinks that I'm not a baby anymore. I don't want the help of nanny always. So I don't like to stick beside my nanny always. But my shadow is not like that. He's a coward and he sticks with me always. He sticks close to me always. And he thinks that to be very, very shameful. Okay? He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play. Why this guy is not playing? Huh? Like other boys. He always stays close beside me and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. Every sort of way. What do you mean by sort? Manner. He stays so close beside me. He's a coward, you can see. I would think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. Okay. Mayuk, read that stanza.
Yes, ma'am. Got a nation of how
Notion. Mayuk, it's notion.
notion of how children
Yes. Caretaker. Exactly, Ira.
to play and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me. He's covered, you can see. I didn't think shame.
Mayuk, stop. What is that word? I'd. It is a contraction. Who can tell me it's a contraction of which two words?
I would.
Yes. But when you read this, you should not read like I would. You have to read I'd. Okay, I'd think shame. You have to read it as short.
Idle.
I'd think shame
I think shame to stick to nursery as that shadow stick to me.
As that shadow sticks to me. Okay. Now, one morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. So one morning, the boy says that he always tries to play tricks on me. So one day I thought that I'll teach him a good lesson. And one morning, very early, before the sun was up, so before the sun rose, I rose. What do you mean by that? I rose. Who can tell? Yes, Janvi?
Woke up.
Yes, exactly. I woke up. So rose is the past tense of rise. Hmm? I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. Buttercup is a type of beautiful flower. You can see on the in the book on the right side. It's a sort of yellow color flower. Actually, it is supposed to be very poisonous. Even cattle are not supposed to eat. It causes lot of like vomiting, diarrhea, something like that if you if that buttercup is consumed. Okay, so so this is beautiful buttercups. It might not be, the resolution is not very high. So one morning, very early, before the sun was up, because of the mist, there'll be a lot of water droplets, that dew. Huh? What is dew? Droplets of water that form on cool surface, because the previous night was very cool. In the morning, you can see water droplets on the flowers as well as on the grass. Okay, so the boy says, one morning, very early before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepy head. So, this is a new word for you, errant. Errant. Here, the word errant means complete, a total. Huh? A total, a complete, errant. Errant, sleepyhead. Now, what do you mean by sleepyhead? Who can tell me what do you mean by sleepyhead? Normally, you use this in your daily uh, daily conversation. Come on, you sleepyhead. Manav.
Ma'am, sleepyhead means when you're too tired and you don't even want to get up.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Sleepyhead means a person who is not at all active, who will always sit and droop, tired, lazy of doing things. Such a person is called a sleepyhead. So here, another adjective given to his shadow is errant, sleepyhead. And how is that word pronounced? It is errant. Okay? Errant. Errant, sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. So this boy thinks that the shadow did not wake up. The shadow is still sleeping because he actually saw the shadow jumping into the bed before he slept, right? So he thinks in the morning, before the sun was up, he got up and went to his garden and saw the beautiful buttercups which was covered with dews, and still that time he did not see his shadow. So what does the boy believe? The boy believes that his shadow is an errant sleepy head fast asleep in his bed. Okay, this is his imagination. But actually, is the shadow sleeping in his bed? Still sleeping? No. Then what is the fact? Nainika, what has actually happened?
There's no light, so no
Huh?
shadow.
There is no shadow. Why is there no shadow?
No light.
No light. But the boy doesn't know this. The little boy is too small to understand the scientific reason before the about the shadow. So he thinks that he is fast asleep. Huh? He is fast asleep in his bed. He's an errant, sleepy head. Okay, Riza, read the last stanza.
One morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepy head, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in
Asleep in
bed.
bed. Okay, so are these two stanzas clear to all of you children? The last,
Yes,
third and
ma'am.
fourth
Yes,
stanza.
ma'am.
Did you
Yes,
understand
ma'am.
what
Yes,
is
ma'am.
the
Yes,
poem
ma'am.
about?
Ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Is there any doubt regarding any point
Felix.
you
No,
did not
ma'am.
understand?
No,
No,
ma'am.
Felix
ma'am.
have
Ma'am,
a
I want to
doubt,
say
ma'am.
one.
Wait.
Felix have.
Felix is a person who always has doubt. Yes. But let me
No.
check whether it is a relevant doubt. Yes, Felix.
Ma'am, in this poet, the boy is saying that he don't know about any shadows or anything. Uh, he is seeing it is errand and sleepy head like that. So in real life, he knows about the shadow.
No, actually, he's too small. This poet is too small. He's just a small child. He
Then
doesn't
also,
know. Huh?
then also I don't know.
No, he doesn't know. When did you start understanding about shadows? When a shadow is formed, how is shadow is formed? Did you
When
know
I grow up,
at the age
this
of
day.
3? Were you knowing about this at the age of 3 or
No,
4? Maybe when you started,
six.
like maybe when you were, if you were too inquisitive to gather information, you might have gathered, you might have understood the reason, or you might have observed these things when you were around 4 or 5 years. And some children won't even know at that age. It depends. It differs from child to child. Depends on their knowledge, or what you say, quest for knowledge, quest for information. Okay. So this character, the character in this poem is a small boy. It's a small boy, and he thinks that shadow is very strange, something very confusing, something very funny, right? So he just describes, the poet is describing it in the child's feelings or the child's imagination in a very beautiful way. And children, do you remember what is the rhyming scheme of this poem? What is the rhyming scheme? Yes, what is the rhyming scheme? Yes, Tanvi.
Ball.
AABB.
AABB. So what does that AABB indicate? The first two lines, the last word of the first two lines rhyme with each other, and the third and fourth line rhyme with each other. You can see that. Me, see,
Head.
grow, slow, ball,
Slow.
play,
All. Play.
see,
See. Me.
buttercup, sleepy head, bed. So this is how the rhyming scheme is given, and this makes the poem more beautiful because they have a particular rhythm. Okay? Yes. I have a little, so as I read the poem, once again, I'll make you read one by one, but just let me know if you have got any doubt regarding any line. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very like me, from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. For he sometimes shoots up taller like an India rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little there's none of him at all. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he's a coward, you can see. I think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. One morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. Okay, so that's it. When you read, it's actually reciting the poem. You know, in English poems, you don't give tune to the poem. Though there is a rhythm, we won't sing the poem. That is done only for the rhymes, like twinkle, twinkle, little star. So that was a tone, and that was done for only rhymes. But poems are recited with the proper intonation and expression. Okay, so what do you mean by intonation? The lowering and the voice modulation, and you have to look at the um, like the commas, the full stops, punctuation marks. You have to look at punctuation marks and read accordingly. Okay, so Arpita, read the first stanza.
Yes, ma'am. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me. And what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me, from the heels up to the head. And I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed.
Very good. Aditi, second stanza.
He's very, very like me, from the heels
Second
up.
stanza. Aditi, the funniest thing. Second stanza.
The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children which is always very slow. For he sometimes shoots up taller like an India rubber ball. And he sometimes gets so little there's none of him at all.
Very good. Dia, third stanza.
He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play, and can only make a fool of me in very sort of way. He stays so close beside me. He's a coward, you can see. I think shame to stick to Nursey at that shadow sticks to me.
Very good. Next, Juan. Last.
Ma'am, one morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shiny dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like errant sleepy head, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed.
Okay. So, children, you have to read this poem at least 5 times. Okay. Try practicing this poem with the proper intonation. And the next class, I will make the others who did not get the chance. See, look at this. See, this is Ambramani. Ambramani. Okay, the art of The art of performing
That everyone time.
stories using shadow. It is
You
called
didn't send the
video.
video of that friendly giant.
Friendly giant. Oh, I forgot about it. I'll send it. Okay.
Ma'am, you didn't show that shadows video.
Ma'am,
Sorry,
You teacher
Siddhi.
also you didn't show.
So
this
it's time up. Time up. I'll send the video. Okay. Thank you all.
Ma'am,
Bye.
Ma'am,
ma'am,
bye.